Our new book bite selection is Mrs. Barr Has Gone Too Far. It's from the My Weirderest School collection. That's a spin-off of My Weird School, written by Dan Gutman, pictures by Jim Paolot, published by Harper's, and I'm Miss Melissa at the Oosterhout Free Library. My name is AJ, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking about the Great Lakes. What makes the Great Lakes so great? That's what I want to know. If you ask me, lakes shouldn't brag. If they were really great, they wouldn't have to talk about how great they are all the time. What about the other lakes? Don't they feel bad because they're not great? Is there a not-so-great lake? Anyway, it was a perfect, normal Monday at elementary school. Get it? Elementary school. In other words, there was nothing normal about it. I hung up my coat in my cubby. That's when my teacher, Mr. Cooper, came flying into the room. He tripped over somebody's backpack and did a face plant into the garbage can. "I'm okay," he said as he took the can off his head. Then we pledged the allegiance and did word of the day. "Should we turn to page 23 in our math books?" asked Andrea Young, this annoying girl with curly brown hair. "No," said Mr. Cooper. "Are we going to do silent reading?" asked Andrea's crybaby friend Emily. "No." "Science?" asked Ryan. He'll eat anything, even stuff that isn't food. "No." "Can we go home?" I asked. I figured it was worth a shot. "No," replied Mr. Cooper. "Today we're going to do something different." Uh-oh. I didn't like the sound of that. Different is scary. You never know what's going to happen. Different could be good, or it could be bad. "What are we going to do?" asked Michael, who never ties his shoes. "This morning," said Mr. Cooper, "we're going to see a slideshow." "No, not a slideshow." Anything but a slideshow. Slideshows are super boring. I'd rather jump into a volcano wearing a pink tutu than watch a slideshow. "I'm going to show you pictures of my trip to Spain," said Mr. Cooper. "No!" Mr. Cooper went to Spain to visit his sister. We had a sub for a week while he was gone. He turned on his computer and plugged it into the smartboard. "Oh, you're going to like this," he told us. Spain was amazing. I was like a fish out of water. Huh? What did fish have to do with anything? "Here's me at the Royal Palace of Madrid," Mr. Cooper said when his first slide flashed on the screen. "Ooh, it's beautiful," said Andrea, who thinks everything is beautiful. I was already feeling drowsy. I felt my eyelids getting heavy. "Here's my sister at a church in Barcelona," said Mr. Cooper. I was fighting off sleep. "Here's a man playing guitar outside the walled city of Toledo," he continued. Zzz. "Here's my sister at a fruit market." What a snooze fest. "Here's my sister at a bullfight," said Mr. Cooper. "Bullfights are cool," said Neil, who would call the nude kid even though he wears clothes. "I think bullfighting is cruel to animals," said Andrea. "I don't approve of violence." "What do you have against violins?" I asked her. "Not violins, Arlo, violence." I was just yanking Andrea's chain. I know the difference between violins and violence. Mr. Cooper's PowerPoint torture went on for 1,100 minutes. He went over to a big map on the wall. "Who can find Spain on the map?" he asked. Andrea raised her hand in the air like she had to go to the bathroom really badly. "How about you, AJ?" asked Mr. Cooper. "Can you point to Spain?" I didn't know where Spain was, but I got up and went over to the map. "Here?" I asked, pointing to some big area near the bottom. "That's Antarctica," said Mr. Cooper. "Here?" I asked. "That's Greenland," said Mr. Cooper. "Here?" "That's Australia." Mr. Cooper rubbed his forehead. "Ooh," groaned Andrea, "I know where Spain is." Mr. Cooper called on her. She went up and pointed to some area near the middle of the map. "That's right," said Mr. Cooper. "Very good, Andrea." Andrea went back to her seat, smiling the smile that she smiles to let everybody know she knows something nobody else does. Why can't a truck full of maps fall on Andrea's head? "Okay," said Mr. Cooper. "Who can find China?" Andrea was the only one with her hand in the air. All the rest of us stared at the floor. If you don't know the answer to a question, stare at the floor so the teacher won't call on you. That's the first rule of being a kid. "It's right here," Mr. Cooper said, pointing to the map. "How about Turkey? Can anybody other than Andrea find Turkey?" That's a ridiculous question. Why would a turkey be on a map? Was somebody using the map as a dinner plate? We all stared at the floor. "How about Greece?" asked Mr. Cooper. "Where is Greece?" "Is it Turkey Greece?" asked Lexia, this girl who rides a skateboard all the time. "Somebody should clean that map off," I said. "It's making me hungry." Only a few kids laughed at my hilarious joke. "How about Africa?" asked Mr. Cooper. "Surely you can find that. It's a very large continent." "I know what a continent is. That's when you poop your pants. But it would have been rude to say that out loud." Okay, so he's mixing up continent and incontinent. "I can point to Africa," shouted the human homework machine. "How about you, Emily?" asked Mr. Cooper. Emily looked nervous as she went over to the map. She pointed at a continent. "That's not Africa," said Mr. Cooper. "That's South America." I thought Emily might cry. Mr. Cooper rubbed his forehead again. "This is basic geography, you guys," he said. "Can anybody find Russia? Germany? Finland?" I raised my hand. "Yes, AJ?" "I can't find them on a map," I said. "But if you're Russian to the bathroom, and you're German before you wash your hands, and you're Finnish when you leave, what are you while you're in the bathroom?" "I give up," said Mr. Cooper. "What are you?" "European!" I shouted. "Get it? European! European!" And then there's a footnote that says, "That is the greatest joke in the whole history of the world." Mr. Cooper rubbed his forehead and mumbled something under his breath about early retirement. I thought that was the end of our geography lesson, but it wasn't. The next day we were in the middle of silent reading, and guess who walked through the door? Nobody. You can't walk through a door. Doors are made of wood. But our principal, Mr. Klutz, walked through the doorway. He has no hair on his head. At all. None. He can probably wax his car on his head at the same time. "Mr. Cooper told me you kids are having trouble with geography," said Mr. Klutz. "So I said he could bring in someone to help you learn about it. Mrs. Barr, will you come in, please?" A lady came into the classroom. She had bracelets and necklaces dangling all over her, and she was wearing a dress that looked like a map of the world. In one hand she was holding a basketball, and on the other hand she was pulling a suitcase. "Hello," she said cheerfully. "Bonjour, hola, guten tag, shalom." She said some other words I'd never heard before. "All those words mean hello in different languages," said Mr. Cooper. "I met Mrs. Barr when I was in Spain. She's visiting our country, and she agreed to come talk to you." "Do you mind if I open a window?" asked Mrs. Barr. "It's a little stuffy in here." "Go right ahead," said Mr. Cooper. "Mr. Cooper tells me you're a real globetrotter," Mr. Klutz said to Mrs. Barr. "Is that why you have a basketball?" I asked. "Not that kind of globetrotter, dumbhead," whispered Andrea, rolling her eyes. "Oh, this isn't a basketball," Mrs. Barr told me. "It's a globe. Yes, I've been all over the world. I've visited 195 countries." "Wow," we all said, which is Mom, upside down. Mrs. Barr has generously offered to spend this week at our school, said Mr. Klutz, and she isn't charging us a penny. She's doing this out of the goodness of her heart. Isn't that wonderful? We gave her a round of applause. That's what you're supposed to do when people do nice things for free. I just love geography, said Mrs. Barr. I am at your disposal. Your garbage can, I asked. Arlo, shouted Andrea, that's not nice. Why do you have a suitcase? Michael asked Mrs. Barr. I never know when I might want to travel somewhere, she replied. I like to be ready at all times, so I take it wherever I go. Do you take it when you go to the bathroom, I asked. Yes, she replied. How about in the shower? Asked Ryan. Do you take your suitcase in the shower with you? Well, no, she replied with a laugh. I don't take it in the shower. It would be weird to take a shower with a suitcase. Your necklaces are pretty, said Andrea. Thank you. Andrea and Emily were oohing and awing all over Mrs. Barr's jewelry. I got these necklaces on a trip to China, she said. China is amazing. And I got this bracelet when I was visiting India. India is amazing. And I got these earrings in Brazil. Brazil is amazing. I still can't believe that people poke holes in their ears and stick stuff in them. I don't care what anybody says. That's just weird. Isn't travel amazing? Asked Mrs. Barr. Yes, shouted all the girls. No, shouted all the boys. Mr. Cooper told us that Mrs. Barr speaks 7 languages. English, Spanish, Turkish, Yiddish, Polish. Can you speak gibberish? I asked. That's not a language, dumbhead, said Andrea, rolling her eyes. I wish her eyes would roll right out of her head. Have you ever been to Egypt? Asked Neil. Oh, yes, Mrs. Barr replied. I went inside the pyramids. It was amazing. Mrs. Barr thinks every place she goes is amazing. She probably thinks it's amazing when she goes to take out the garbage. I don't get it. What's the big deal about going places? Why would you want to go someplace when you can stay home? Going places is a drag. You have to go to the airport, take off your shoes, put your shoes on again, and sit around waiting for the plane to take off. Then you have to sit on a plane for 100 million hours. Then, when you finally get to the place you're going, your parents drag you to a bunch of museums and other boring stuff. Do you know what I think of as soon as I get to the place I'm going? I think about when I can go home. I'd rather just stay home in the first place. Well, I don't agree with AJ at all. I love to go places, and wherever you might like to go, we have a book about it here at the Oosterhout Free Library. So come on in and see us, and if you'd like to know more about the Weird School series, go to the website in the description box below for lists of the books. There's lots, and see the author Dan Gutman talk about and read some of his books. See you next time from the Oosterhout Free Library.